Okay, we're back from break.
Okay, so mainly the entire book is about racism and just how that's affected all of them growing up. And that really comes in play with how, like, when he was growing up, he saw his mom being affected when he would get off the bus stop and when the Black Panther incident and going to school. And then as Ruth was growing up, it shows her and how she met a boy named Peter, but he was black, so in that time frame their relationship wouldn't be socially accepted and it would never really work. And then he ended up getting her pregnant, and that obviously was way worse than them even having a relationship, because that just wouldn't work in that society. So then she told her aunt about it, and she promised to keep it a secret and helped her find a doctor for an abortion clinic. And her family was very accepting of her even in the hard time, which wasn't really popular in that time.
Okay, and I also want to touch bases on Chicken Man, which is shown when James hits his rebellion phase and he goes out to live like away from his parents, away from his mom, and then he meets like the Chicken Man, and Chicken Man is like a grown man, and he kind of drinks a lot, but like he's always around like James' presence, and James kind of looks up to him as like kind of as a role model. And one day, like, Chicken Man like tells James like, you need to go back to school, like this life is not for you. And then like James kind of like, he understands what he's saying, but like it doesn't fully hit him until he dies the next day. Then it starts to hit James on it.
And the importance of that scene is that a man's life would end so quickly, and with the life that Chicken Man lived and the life that James McBride was heading towards, they were living in a life of just, it would end by chance. It was so quick. It was a life that you would never know if there was going to be a tomorrow. You wouldn't know.
It was like living on the edge.
Living on the edge, exactly. And so you didn't really have any stability in your life whatsoever. And so back to what Ria was saying about the Chicken Man, there was also another scene in which, similarly, there was a character named Mike, and him and his girlfriend, Mustang, were having a fight. And as James McBride witnessed this, Chicken Man told him not to interfere with the man and his woman. And I think the importance of that is that fights like that could escalate, because in this specific scene, Mike and Mustang were fighting. She was going to break up with him, and she left him, and then his life was threatened by her, because she was going to come back with her new boyfriend with a gun that was going to threaten his life. But from that, Mike, the next day, he sat outside the corner of New York, Louisville, and he was waiting for 2 days with a shotgun in his hand for the so-called boyfriend to come up. The boyfriend never came, but instead the woman and him came back within the next week to be seen as a couple again. And from that scene, you can see how different that the outcome of Mike's life went through from the outcome of Chicken Man. Mike had a fight with a woman and his life was threatened, but he survived it. He passed through it. Chicken Man was also threatened by a woman, but however, he died by a stab in a knife. So his life was unpredictable. This type of life of living on the edge is really unpredictable. And further on, Chicken Man was really important to James McBride's life, because he was one of the men in New York that influenced his life. Other than his stepfather, in New York, Chicken Man was one of those models that guided him, and that's what led Chicken Man to telling James McBride to change his lifestyle right now, because this way of living on the edge, this way of day by day not knowing what you're going to do, having the potential to be smart but not choosing to be smart, not choosing to live a better life, of thievery, of robbing, of mugging. It was Chicken Man that told James McBride to change how he was, and that was really important.
Yeah, and he like really loved Chicken Man, and like this death of him like really made James think like to like go back to like, you know, education and go back to what he, you know, like his good side and realize morality. And then he comes back to, you know, Christianity in this new life.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a great example of how turbulent and unpredictable that life that James, Chicken Man, and Mike and Mustang were living during that time. When you're doing these drugs, it's just you lose a sense of appreciation for life and a value for life, you lose the value of a human life. As we see, Chicken Man is stabbed for no reason. Mike is threatened by the presence of another man and decides, instead of, rationally either talking to him or having a conversation with him, he goes straight to a shotgun.
Yeah.
Like there's no in between there, and they just lose a sense of appreciation and value for life. And then James's return to Christianity is a great turning point in the story, one, and then in his life also, because he then centers himself again with the help of God and Christianity, and he learns, there's more in life than just getting high every day or hanging out in the corner. There's more to life than doing those things.
I think James begins to realize that when he tells Chicken Man that he should have shot him, and then Chicken Man kind of goes off on him about telling him don't do that. No one's gonna beg you to go back to school. Go why'd you drop out? No one cares if you drop out. Go and make the better decision. And he's like, if you want to throw away your life, go ahead and do that. I don't care. It's your life. But then he says in 150, I'd never heard Chicken Man talk so severely, and what he said didn't really hit me, not right away. I said to myself, he's just a drunk, and continued my adventures. It just shows that he took him for granted for having someone that cared about him in that and wanted him to do better, and he never really got the hard truth about it. He kind of got the sugar-coated version until later, and this just shows that when he did die, he realized that maybe he should turn his life around.
Right.
I think James's newfound friendships with these people shows his deep down want for a father figure, as he's kind of forming these somewhat irrational friendships with people who most people would consider not necessarily the best people to be around. Chicken Man, who is a drunk, as he calls him, Mike, who's a drug addict and a drunk. These people are not typically the people you want to be around, you want to hang around. They're obviously not good influences, but after Hunter Jordan's death, he's left with such a gaping hole in his life. He's looking to latch on to anything he can, and any person that can somewhat ease this or fill the hole in his life, looking for guidance in any way. And then when he finally gets it, he ignores it until it finally hits him after Chicken Man dies.
Right. And I think this story, from the beginning to the end, especially the first part, it's James, he's very immature and he's very young at the age, and he doesn't understand that many things. He always used to question his mom about black and white and religion. And then this second part of the book, it really shows how he's facing reality and growing up and seeing all the different aspects of the world, and he's starting to learn where he is in the world.
Right, because in the very beginning of the book, James McBride was this little boy who always clung to his mom. He was tugging on her dress or on her hand, and was so afraid that during the civil rights movement, which was when he was younger, he was so afraid that white men would come and take his mom away, or white men would take him away from his mom, and he was just so scared of that fact. Then now, skip a few years later, he's this teenage boy who is making his own decisions, although bad decisions. He is making his own decisions and really inserting himself into this real world outside of his home. So that he's really breaking out from the isolated safety shelter that his mom made for him and his family.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's really inserting himself into the world where everything is different, the death. Where in this section of the book, we really talk about death and change and growth. And so it really moves from fear, which was really present in the book, in the beginning part of the book. So it moves from themes of fear and being scared, to change, death, and growth, and
which is the main idea of the entire section here, is change and growth, and that kind of change that James goes through in his life.
And I think that him being stuck to his mom pretty much for the first half, and then once his dad dies, he kind of ventured out and makes his own decisions. He didn't have the father figure to help guide him to the right decisions, so he came from not making pretty much any decisions to making all the decisions, and he just was overwhelmed and made the wrong ones, or the easiest ones.
All right, thank you for tuning in. This has been Grit TV, and see us for our next episode. Have a good day.